Welcome to What the Fuck Did I Just Read? The Tech Sales and Marketing Edition. This is going to be a blast.
This isn't just a podcast to have a conversation. This is a podcast to affect change.
It's kind of our outlet for therapy, to just let it rip. All righty. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. As Mr. Roberts says, welcome back to another episode of What the Fuck Did I Just Read? Tech Sales and Marketing Edition. Mr. Roberts, you look quite sharp today. Where are you?
I figured I'd put the picture up for a minute and then I'd take you back down again because I'm streaming this from the telephone. So I am currently in the middle of Black Hat and Mia, Middle East and Africas. I am in Riyadh, Saudi of the Arabias. So,
beautiful.
Yeah, it's myself and 40,000 other people in, I don't know how many square feet of space, but we'll just go with the word lots.
Yes.
And, day 2 of the conference, and we're wrapping it up. And they're taking us out to a place called the Boulevard, which is apparently like a recreation of a whole bunch of different like city centers and all sorts of other artworky things. So I'm actually looking forward to it. I'll get to do some shopping.
Well, good luck at the remainder of the show. How has it been so far? And expectations have been met? Yes, no?
Yes, absolutely. It's fantastic. I mean, it's I've done 2 talks so far. One talk and one panel. On the panel, the Ask Us Anything panel was a bunch of us from a CISO standpoint, basically sitting down, talking with the audience. And I think what I love about this neck of the woods is, and this kind of goes for the whole Middle East area, is people like to ask questions. People like to have conversations. People are engaged. You know, you ask any questions in the audience and hands go up. People aren't afraid to ask questions. I kind of love it. So it's really, really nice. And so for me, it's actually a very, very good thing. So I've enjoyed that. The talk I gave was good, and I have another talk I'm giving tomorrow. And then I am out of here later after that. So no, it's good. Just some fantastic, just good people in this neck of the woods. And again, I love the diversity. For me, this is one of those really nice things where I did it again this year. I did it last year. I stood on the corner and I counted, and it's almost a 50-50 split, male-female. And it's just fantastic. At a security conference with this people, it's just brilliant. I love it.
That's awesome. I mean, much appreciated on the context there in the background. I really appreciate you coming on while you're in the middle of all the craziness over there and on your phone, hopping on buses, hopping in rooms to take this call. So I appreciate it. I know that you said we weren't going to change the scheduling. So that's dedication. Like I said last week, it only took me 4 years to get you to dedicate yourself to coming on in the middle of the night, in the middle of a trade show for a podcast. So I appreciate that very much.
No, I love it. This is good. I enjoy it. I'm fortunate. There's a speaker area and there's like an upstairs space and there's a quiet-ish room. So I'm hiding and I've kidnapped this at least for the next about 5-10 minutes, and then I'll hit the floor, and then I've got to aim to head to the bus because it's 7 o'clock at night here. But you know what the really nice thing about it? Am I choppy or am I actually doing okay at the moment?
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Good. So what's actually really nice about the conference out here is it doesn't officially start until 12 or 12:30, so like noon. So the really nice thing about it is you don't get people out of bed. People can actually get up, get some work done in the mornings, get some stuff done, and then dedicate themselves to the conference. So it's really, really nice. And then, it's 7 o'clock at night and the conference is still humming. I think the last talks are in an hour or 2 or something like that. So it's really nice. And then everybody goes out for dinner. So I like the way this works.
Well, I'm eager to dig in deep. We can definitely do a debrief next week while you're back.
Yeah.
I know you have to head out, so I will say I'm open to having anyone come on the show and run today with me while you get on your bus back home. Alternatively, I can just rant for another 45 minutes, which I'm happy to do because I have lots to say. But to be more productive and efficient, I'm open to having people to come on the show as we always do every week, have a conversation, ask some questions. So if you're in the
I'll keep
audience today and want to come on,
Yeah, I'm going to keep going for as long as I can because this is fun, and it's. I'll go down into the floor in a minute, and we'll see how well it works because the phone's been. I mean, this is one of those things. Obviously, I'm at a security conference, and there's no chance on this planet I'm going to hop on the internet. So the using the phone as my hotspot has been fantastic. So and huge. Actually, I mean, you think about it from a traveling perspective. You think years ago we weren't able to do that anywhere near as effectively as we can. I'm sitting on a video conference. I've got stuff going on in the background, and it's all running through the blasted telephone. So kudos to the telephone companies for stepping up and giving us the capabilities to do that. It's actually rather nice.
awesome. I love it. Yeah. Tell me a little bit before you have to hop off. Tell me a little bit about, you talked about some communication styles that are different over there in that neck of the woods. How do you think, sales and marketing pros? It might be a loaded question for 5 minutes, but how do you think sales and marketing pros can, better prepare themselves to address those different cultural communication styles?
I think it's a different style over here. It's an absolutely different style. What's interesting is, I mean, there are numerous different things. I've been thinking about it this trip because last year when I came over here, I was just absorbing it all and taking it all in. This year, I've looked at it through, I would say, a more critical eye, but a very much more analytical eye as to, why it's different, why I feel the way I do. And I think there's a number of different things. Very, very honestly, first and foremost, there's no alcohol, none at the conference. So you don't have drunk sales and marketing people and drunk techie people. So the level of respect is constant and doesn't change throughout the day. Not that I'm having a go at it, but that, I'll drink if, hell, I take this stuff with me for crying out loud. But I do think it adds a dynamic which for some people isn't something that they probably should partake in a public environment. So I think that's one. Number two, I do think, quite honestly, the dress code is a great leveler in some ways. I mean, I look around and most of the men and most of the women are in what you would classify as a very, very generic set of clothing. And so for me, it's rather interesting because there is actually an effort to dress up. It's part of the reason I got the blazer on, to be honest. And there's part of the logic I think I like about it is a leveler. You can have somebody come up to you who is a tech, or somebody who comes up to you. So similar. I mean, yes, who's got the pen and who's got this and all the other things, but I like the fact that it levels the playing field, to be honest. Actually quite so everybody here gets treated with the same level of respect from that standpoint. Now, is that true outside of this environment? Not necessarily, but I'm not going to cast stones because I live in a country that's got some challenges, and I come from a country that has challenges. But this is an interesting insight into seeing how everybody talks. The male-female ratio is absolutely amazing as well here. So I think there's an element of respect across that border, which again, first time around, I did not expect to see. But this time around, I'm like, all right, I want to look at it critically.
It's an interesting observation that you mentioned. And by the way, how are we on time? Because I know we're a little bit pressed in terms of getting you going.
I'm good for about another 5 minutes, then I'll head. But I will keep talking as long as I can. I'll probably go. Well, we'll see. We'll play it by ear. If I have to go off camera and go on audio,
we'll play it by ear.
Yep.
We'll play it by ear as we've done for about 41 episodes to date, so we're good. But you mentioned something really interesting. I put out a post yesterday on LinkedIn about reading the room, and I feel like that's an underutilized skill these days because everything is largely digital. We're almost like desensitized to fit the what's going on in our physical presence. I won't say it applies to everybody, but sometimes we overlook what's actually in front of us because we're used to seeing things behind a screen, or we're used to see, doing things at the keyboard. But what strikes me, and it's kind of almost like a duh moment, is the physical has such an impact on the way you communicate.
Yeah.
What goes around in what goes on in your physical surrounding, you have to be so in tune with the nuances of what's going on in your physical surrounding and your experiences, which will have a huge impact on the way you communicate with people, whether it's looking at body language, whether it's looking at dress codes, a diversity in the room, culture, eyes, but like I said, body language. Um, I feel like people might be losing touch into how to translate what's going on in their physical experience to the way they should be communicated. And I just find it so fascinating because just a few months ago, this past year, I've been so ingrained in doing these focus groups physically in person with buyers and with vendors. And I realized that, looking at the way they're communicated, some are really good at reading the room and kind of navigating the discussion. Others are just so stuck in their way in terms of dominating the conversation instead of kind of making the conversation flexible to how people are reacting, um, how people communicate in general based off of where they come from, how they're dressed, how they look. So like, I just find that super fascinating, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that kind of anomaly or observation that I see.
I think you're 100% correct. Here's one other thing, just I was thinking about as I was walking, or as I was just listening to you. But one other huge difference between here and like the US and Europe to some degree as well, there's next to no gimmickry giveaways and no bullshit, spin the wheel, play the games, no come up and get a free t-shirt, get a squeezy ball. None of that. I think I've seen like maybe one booth or maybe two booths out of the hundreds of them that are here. And so it is very much when I walk up to a booth, it is to have a conversation. It isn't to get free shit. Now, do they all have the coffees here, the various different coffees and dates? Yes, they do. But you don't see people walking around eating all of that stuff all the time. It's a very deliberate move to go to the booth to have the conversation. And I think that's another big indicator as well. But exactly to your point, I've done a huge amount of just people watching here because it's fun to do, and I actually appreciate being able to do that. But the conversations are very much more direct, very much more human focused, very, very respectful, and I would also say in a much more positive way as well. I mean, I think, and I know I'm this way because I know what I'm like. I mean, I'm cynical. And I think so many of us in the industry, again, especially US and to some degree Europe as well, that cynicism creeps into the conferences, it creeps into our conversations, it creeps into how we approach, it creeps into everything. Whereas I see so much enthusiasm, I see so much positivity over here. And this isn't all conferences. I mean, we were up at Gherkin up in Grand Rapids, and that had an amazing positive vibe to it. But you go to the bigger ones, and there's something there. Whereas here, there seems to be so much positive and good energy. I think because of the conversations, because when you're talking to people, there is respect. There's kindness here. I mean, I've had conversations here that I would never have had in the US, and I've had all sorts of conversations. I've had conversations about deities. I've had conversations about beards. I've had conversations about politics and what's going on in various different regions. But they have been respectful conversations across the board. I have yet to have an interaction that I've like recoiled from. So I think that's also part of it. It's an adult to adult conversation. There's a level of mutual respect.
Yep. What do you think are some kind of tactical, practical tips to better read the room and read people? I mean, you've done this for quite some time, so before you
Yeah.
head off with your bag, kind of like top 3 tips.
All right. I'm going to keep doing this, and we'll see how long I can keep doing this for. If you can't hear me, just tell me. But
You're
I
good.
think so. Yeah, practical tips. Hang on, what was it? Practical tips for reading the room, wasn't it?
Yeah, reading the room, reading people, so that you understand how to kind of better navigate a conversation.
Well, I think first and foremost is get past what your eyes see. So let's start with the easy one. You know, whether you have and this is really what I like as well. Back to that great equalizer. Whether you're for it or against it, or whether you believe it's oppression, or whether you believe it's personal choice, whatever.
Oh, looks like we got Chris cut off here. All right.
It's reconnecting. It says it's reconnecting. You got me back? Let me turn the video off.
I got you back now. Yeah. So
right.
you're saying, you're saying, look beyond what your eyes see. So get past yourself,
Exactly.
basically.
Yeah, look beyond what you. I mean, that's a huge one. So, typically, and I think part of it comes down to whether it's race, creed, color, religion, size, height. Metrics are huge things that, unfortunately, more often than not, we let influence our judgment. We let those cloud our conversation too much. We need to look past. I was stood at stage or next to the stage, and there's a 13-year-old giving a lecture about malware. Now, close your eyes. It was an amazing, intelligent conference. You just took that first thought, was like, oh, it's a 13-year-old. What the heck do they know? You'd have been a complete fool, because they knew more than probably most people in the audience. And it's the same thing with all sorts of other dynamics. So, big one, number one, look past your eyes. Number 2 for me is that mutual respect. It's mutual respect not just for the person, but for where you are. So again, I'm here where I'm at. I know too many people that would not necessarily be respectful of this region, for good, bad, or ugly. It's the same thing when you travel to any other area. You go into that region with a baseline level of respect for the culture you're going into. Now, whether you challenge that culture or want to influence it, or want to have fun with it, or in my case, just, I explore it. And yeah, I push the boundaries, let's face it, it's me. But you at least go in with that level of respect. Otherwise, don't go there. And it's the same thing when you're at a conference, at a local environment or anything. Where situational awareness, where are you, and what simple stuff that we should all know.
All right. Looks like we got you cut off again.
And we make an assumption that they don't have my back, or am I deceased?
There we go. Yeah.
All right.
Got you back. No. We got you back.
All right. The third one is we make two options. I'll use Marco. I'll use my third as my bait. Again, the 13-year-old, and you're like, huh? What are you doing and why are you up there? Whereas again, you close your eyes and you're like, oh wow, this kid knows a heck of a lot. But too many people would brush him off, and we've all seen that. I remember walking into boardrooms as a 20-odd-year-old and not being given the time of day. Yet I literally just came out of combat leading a team. So you're like, hang on, you might want to take a step back and get rid of those preconceived, maybe age and some of the other things. So I mean, there's so many reasons to do that. Yeah, I think it's engage brain before, and the other one obviously is engage brain before opening mouth, which so many people don't seem to be able to do.
I think it's fascinating because you're saying before you actually do something, physically do something, right? Which I dub the outer shift, and we'll get into that at some point. The inner versus the outer shift. You have to change your mindset. First and foremost. and then you can
Absolutely.
start reading the room.
But
So
I
then
think-
when you read the
yeah.
room, yeah,
Yeah, you don't go
Go on,
in
Chris.
with any prejudices. You don't go in.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm walking out, so it should get quieter.
So when you do
Thank you.
actually, once you go in with no prejudice, right?
Yeah.
And I love how this conversation is going, by the way, and I appreciate you walking on and continuing with us as we go through some of the practical tips here. I will bring on Daniel Moses. Actually, Daniel was in Denver a couple weeks ago, so I'll bring him on also to join us into the discussion as you're walking out. But before we bring him in, what are a few tips now for that outer shift, the actual physical, practical tips that people can take once they've come in with no prejudice?
Oh, hang on. Hang on 2 seconds. Hey, say hi.
How are you? Are you in the board meeting?
Hello,
No,
you're live.
We're doing a live podcast. Say hi to Danny. We're doing the What the Fuck Did I Just Read podcast.
Oh no, that's a good one.
Yo, I
That's
love
a really
it.
good one.
It's so much fun. Hello. Would you like to be
Chris,
say hi to the podcast?
Chris.
Well, say hi to the podcast.
Say hello to all of our guests.
Hang
Hello.
on.
Chris, go.
Are you going to the Boulevard?
Yeah, first hotel and then Boulevard.
Oh, the hotel and Boulevard? Or, can we do that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Oh, splendid.
Hi Chris, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Yeah, are you going to the Boulevard?
Yes.
All right, everybody. You
Hang on
are
2
witnessing.
Yeah.
You are witnessing people
Girls,
live in the
boulevarding
shoes
in
of a
hotels and
CISO on the
boulevard,
floor of Black Hat
Boulevard. Can we
EMEA,
leave these on the
which
bus?
is fascinating. As you can tell, he has absolutely no time to do anything,
Okay,
which I
okay.
love.
I'm here.
We're gonna put Chris on mute. Let's see if we can put Chris on mute as we bring
I'll go on
in
mute.
Daniel. Chris is gonna do his thing, and Daniel's gonna come help run the show while Chris is navigating the Black Hat floor. Daniel, what's up?
Hey, Danny, how you doing? Pleasure to be here.
I'm doing good. It's so good to see you again.
Oh man, that was such a blast. That when I got to go out there to that event and know that you and Chris were going to be there, I was like a kid meeting their superstars. So
Oh, I appreciate it. It was really a pleasant surprise to see so many people come in, and we talked about the Denver event last week too, but it just, we're still talking about it, which speaks volume to the things that Maria over at Newspire did, and her team who came in and helped facilitate, and those folks over at Right Time Watches. So
yeah.
I loved meeting you. You really moved me with some of the things that you were telling me. I mean, the feedback that you gave and the validation was just really freaking awesome. And you actually have a special story with some of the things that you're doing online and the way you're communicating. And I the reason why I brought you on, like hands down, no hesitation whatsoever, is because you have a very unique approach. Before we dive into that, though, give me a little bit of your backstory.
Back again.
Who are you? Hey, Chris. Who are you, Daniel? What do you do, and why the hell do you do it?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I am a proud father of 6 children.
Yeah.
Hello.
Which I mean, what I do is easy compared to what my wife does. 6 kids, it's a lot, but love them. They range anywhere from 16 all the way down to 7. They keep me on my toes, so that's my why of why I wake up every day and do what I do. I work for Cybel. We're a threat intelligence company, and I'm particular in the sales aspects of things. But I call myself an ambassador because I like to represent my company in a way that's respectable. So like what Chris is doing out there, we actually have some of our guys out there, and I love that whole environment that's there. Because like he's talking about, what I love doing in this space is I like doing it different. I like creating the relationship and truly figuring out who you are as a person before even getting into the whole business side of things. Because, Chris can tell you, and this whole podcast is a testament to it. The CISOs and CIOs and decision makers get it all day long. They get the call, the generic, like, hey, this is my company. This is what I do. Buy from me. I'm the best. okay, obviously there needs to be that in this space, because if nobody says who they are, you're never going to be noticed. But I try to take it a step further and say, hey, before I even get to who I am,
Hi.
I want to know who you are.
Hi from
All right, before we continue with Daniel, I mean, we got to get Chris on stage
Oh yeah.
to like show him everything. Okay, here, everybody, welcome to the world. Anyway, this is like the best marketing. I love it.
Oh yeah.
This was not planned, by the way, everyone. So I think it's just fascinating. All right, this is one of the more unique episodes we've had, and we're doing a great job. All right, continue. Sorry.
Oh yeah, we get the live action driving too. Oh, I love it. I love this podcast. So
this is going to be fun. Yeah. So we're heading to a place called the Boulevard, which is it's I think it's a cross between like New York, Epcot Center, and like Dubai, all in this area. Because I remember going there last year, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was. Yeah. By the way, I'm wearing the custom-made blazer with the sleeves rolled up now because I'm done. I'm informal now. Yeah. So it's
we appreciate it, Chris. This is the best marketing that we can get.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is so Black Hat puts this conference on. And what I love about it is they bring, the speakers, they look after us. Let's just put it that way. It's we get off the airplane, we're escorted through so we don't have to go through regular customs, all that shenanigans. We get looked after, and they put trips on. So we get to see the culture, we get to see the life behind everything. And to me, that's fantastic. And the range and diversity of speakers here has been absolutely splendid. I mean, they've got, I think it's a pretty even mix again between, you look at one speaker, you got somebody like me on it, you look at another speaker, you got a 13-year-old kid, you look at another speaker, you got a panel of women. I love it. I love the fact that they do this here.
Oh, well, that's absolutely awesome. We love the fact that you're taking us through this whole experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I do at least. I don't know what others feel. I'm trying not to have a small conniption here and panic attack as we, navigate through some of the technical difficulties, but I think we're doing a good job.
Yeah, it's working. We'll figure, and worst case, I can always go back on mute, or I can always go back on off camera again.
You're good. We're actually Daniel's telling us a little bit about his backstory and what he does and why he does it, and then we're going to get into some of the. I want to dig in and some of the communication tactics that he's been using to resonate with folks like you, Chris. So I'm gonna hand the mic off to Daniel and continue there. So keep on.
Sounds like a plan.
Hey Chris, wanted to say hi again too.
Hey, good seeing you.
That event just looks awesome, and love the blazer. You look like a rock star.
Love you. Thank you.
Super short story, if I can, Danny, just about Chris.
Yeah.
So in part of talking about sales, so one of the things that obviously I do as a salesperson, I go on LinkedIn. I just try to find information and just see the stories that are out there, because that's one thing that I love about my job is I have this freedom to really get to know these people who are at these high levels. And as I shared with you, though, a lot of times I think that people look at CISOs and CIOs and all these decision makers, and they look at them as just as a number or as an ATM, so to speak. What can I get out of them? Where I look at it as like, hey, I want to find out who's interesting and who I can talk to. So Chris Roberts was actually one of them that, as I was going through LinkedIn, I came across this page and I was like, this guy looks interesting. Let me see if, I can connect to him. Who knows if it'll happen. And it was actually another Newspire event. It was at the Rocky Mountain Information Security Conference. Maria, again, was having an event. She invited me out there. And I walk in and I see this gentleman with this really long beard. And I was like, man, that guy, he looks really cool. I was like, he looks really familiar. And when I was looking at Chris, honestly, he looked like somebody who everyone would avoid, because, you grow up and it kind of has this biker essence, and people are like, oh, shy away. And I was like, man, I really want to talk to him. I got tied up with a lot of conversations, but all night I was like, man, who is this person? And then I get home and I find out that Chris connected with me on LinkedIn, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was Chris. And I didn't say hi.
Well, that's funny because you mentioned again, and this goes back to what Chris is saying, is like, don't assume. and put down your prejudice. You just got to like put the walls down and put yourself to the side and be open to looking at people beyond your own eyes. So
I think
I
I'll
love
add to
that.
that. So I'll add to that. And actually, I saw it this morning and I didn't like it. And so I also tend to watch. I spend a long time watching people because, a perfect example, this morning there was we had breakfast, and the hotel has an amazing breakfast. It's like the seven or eight different like setups of breakfast. But they also come up and they'll serve you tea and coffee and everything else like that. And I'm sitting at a table, and they come up and you should be treating everybody the same, but this individual, and we'll leave it at that, basically looked up at the wait staff almost as if like, what are you doing here? And then just was like, this, and this. And that was it. There was no, oh, I would love this, please, thank you very much. It was just this, and this. And I'm like, and then they looked across at me, and I'm like, could I have a cup of tea, please, as well? Thank you. And you could tell that it was somebody looking at somebody else in a serving attitude and not giving them the time of day. And for me, I will not deal with that individual if they cannot treat everybody the same. I have no respect for that at that point in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
You
mean,
can't, mhm.
we all have off days. I mean, don't get me wrong. We all have off days, and I mean, there are times I have growled. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'll own it. And there are times I've also probably not been as respectful as I could be or should be. But I was watching this one very, very closely, and you could just tell that was their normal attitude. You are not important to me, therefore I do not need to be necessarily respectful or polite to you. And so it was, kind of one of those moments.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the service industry doesn't get enough credit altogether. Um, and I'd love to dig into how folks who are in the service industry, I mean, this could apply to not just, the restaurant industry, but, sales and marketing as well, how they can be more resilient. But I do want to get into that, but I do want to shift back to Daniel because Daniel's here to give us a little bit of color into the colorful messaging that he's used. So keep on, Daniel.
Yeah, so a little
I love hearing your story.
Yeah, a little bit about background. I've always been, a techie person. But having 6 kids, one of them, was straight out of high school. So I had to, make decisions quick. And so I didn't go into the field that I wanted to, which was actually in a technical role. And during COVID, it was a blessing in disguise. I got let go, but I had the opportunity to join CU's cybersecurity boot camp. And that's a whole nother story. Loved the experience that I had from it. Beautiful relationships that I still hold today. And from that, I graduated right when 10,000 people were laid off in the industry, which was
Wow.
difficult. So I was originally trying to get into a technical role, but when competing against level 3 engineers and DevOps and so on and so forth, who are all now trying to fill in that space as well, I had to either figure out, do I keep going technical or do I pivot? And as a salesperson does, they pivot. So I found Cybele, got on board. That gave me a really unique opportunity that I wasn't ready for. And what that was is that CU saw this as an opportunity to say, hey, we have a success story. And now we're going to send everybody who graduates his way.
Wow.
And which was, I mean, it is an extreme honor. I mean, to be looked upon as a leader is an amazing something that was bestowed upon me that I don't feel worthy of. But at the same time, I do know that I have leadership skills, and I want to take the most of it and be able to give back. Because cybersecurity, if I've learned anything, is if you're not giving back to the community, you're not doing a good job. Plain and simple. So right now, that's one of the things that I'm really trying to learn from some experts, and I'm learning from some people. I just actually had a meeting today with an amazing woman named Kaylee Connors. she's doing something similar and helping people because I know that Chris has talked about it. This is a tough space, for people coming in the past, and so what can I do to help out? Whether it's somebody who's coming in that's new, that's going to be kind of my forte, but I'm also willing to kind of help out, other people and network and say, hey, if you want to have a conversation with me, I'll listen to you and love to hear your story. And if I have anyone that I know that can fit, I'll try to shout your name out. So
I love that. I mean, hats off to you. How has that role, your mission in helping others come into the industry, and just your overall um, way of doing things impacted the way you perform over at your company right now in terms of performance?
yeah, yeah, I'm pretty fresh and I'm still pretty green into this. Just to give a heads up to the world. So I started my cybersecurity role in May of this year. So I'm still figuring out a lot of things. However, one of the biggest things that I took from class is network. You have to network. So I love people. I love going out. The fact that Chris is talking about people watching, man, that's one of the most fun things to do. And you can learn a lot, not just about the person, but if there's a group of them, you can learn a lot about the company. And that says a lot of like, all right, are you going to go that direction? Not that you're going to judge the book, but if you're observing, you're really kind of taking that in. You're trying to figure out who they are. So this role that my mission there to help other people, I think has helped me understand when I go and I talk to CISOs, when I go and talk to CIOs, it's helped me put a different level of thinking in my mindset. Okay, am I going to go at this as a transactional way, just strictly, which comes really to a dead end, or am I going to go at this as, hey, I want to build a relationship? And because right now, let's be honest, it everyone out there has some sort of tool. Okay. And so I'm here saying, hey, I've got another tool and I can say it's the best all I want. And all they're going to just hear is, yeah, whatever. I've heard this before. The last 1,000 calls that I've gotten have said the exact same thing. But if I go at it as the same way that I'm trying to do my mission and help other people and help them share my experience, say, hey, you know what? Here's my experience. Here's what I've learned. Okay. So I'm going to go to these companies and I'm going to say, hey, and I know you have tools. So what I want to do is I want to walk alongside you as a friend. And I'm going to let you know, hey, I have a tool and I understand that you already have the tool set. So if there comes a time where that tool is not working for you, here's who I am as a person. Let's just talk.
Okay, I'm going to push back here for the sake of playing devil's
Sure.
advocate. I'm all about that. However, people can smell through the bullshit.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And not everybody wants a friend. And this is also geared towards the question for you, Chris. Not everybody wants a friend. Not everybody wants an acquaintance. Like, at what point does it become effective to, like, how do you navigate that approach when you have kind of the cynical, skeptical person who's just like, I got to make money, I got to do my job, I got to perform, I got to maintain progress? Like, it's not like I'm not looking for any of that. Like, do you move on, or how do you kind of like navigate that experience?
Right. Yeah. So how do you balance, like, all right, are we going to do business or are we not? Because I don't need a friend. I need help. Right. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
and that kind of comes back to what Chris is talking about, reading the room, what you guys were talking about, reading the room. So for me, I have the ability to understand when I'm listening to somebody, because you ask those discovery questions, right? So if you go on there, if you get the opportunity to talk to somebody, you got to have a set of discovery questions. That's going to set you up regardless. As a salesperson, you have to understand who you're talking to. So for instance, somebody put a comment on LinkedIn here. How do you have those actually getting the conversations with the CISOs? So when it comes to networking in person, that's what I love most, because I mean, you're face to face. You can do a lot better reading. But even if it's on the phone, they pick up the phone. Obviously, I can't, over the phone be like, hey, do you want to be my friend? Back in the elementary days. But you have to talk. Still have to have those discovery questions. Hey, I'm interested in finding out who you are, your company. You still have to ask the question, do you have a tool? Because maybe they don't, and you have to help out. Does Chris have to leave? I just want to make sure I give space there for Chris too.
No, I just want to give him an option if he needs to drop. He's totally cool.
I'm good. We got a whole bunch of guys here. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
All from, where are you all from?
India.
India, hence the reason for the conversation for cricket. And Pakistan. You guys were kicking some ass. I think you beat the hell out of us in cricket the other day. Yeah. I got a bunch of people. Okay, so here's how this works. England comes up with all these blasted different games, like cricket and football and rugby, and we get our asses beaten at every single one of them by everybody else.
You guys need to practice or maybe stop inventing games.
No, tell me about it. Welcome to a live podcast, by the way, guys.
I love it.
Oh, it's awesome. I love this. Again, this is what I love about this neck of the woods. That it's just the cultural diversity is freaking awesome. So, and the other thing I like about this as well, you have India and Pakistan in the same space. That is freaking awesome.
Wow.
So anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
Love it.
actually, I'll follow on from Danny, and I am going to play devil's advocate on this one. I think you're right. Learning about the individual, learning about the CISO is definitely one big thing. Not only learning about the CISO, but also it's that where are their needs? What do they need? Where are their needs? Where are they now? That takes time. Now, how do you reconcile that with, hey, these are the numbers I have to hit, or this is what I have to do, or this, where is everything on this one?
All right. So yeah, how do I essentially still do my job as a salesperson, right? Because I do. I still have to make meetings. I still have to do those things. So there is a balance. So, and it's tough. It's to be honest, because I want to be honest. Everyone should be honest. I'm still learning that. I'm trying to figure out that balance of, luckily I've been blessed. I hit my numbers this past quarter and everything. So thank you God for that. But I'm still trying to figure out, okay, how do I still accomplish the numbers that are needed? Like you're saying, Chris, how do I still get to that number and build that relationship? Because like I said, it takes time. If I go to somebody, such as let's say I go to Chris and I say, hey, Chris, I've got this tool here that I want to sell, and I think it would be a perfect fit. Here's why A, B, and C. And Chris goes, hey, absolutely. That fits all the check marks of what I need, but I have a tool for that right now. I've got a contract. So what it comes down to is building those connections, though, because I still have to have a warm lead list. So Chris says, hey, you know what? I'm not ready now. Come talk to me at mid 2024. Boom. All right. Write that down. Being organizational in sales is key, because I will absolutely take Chris up on that opportunity. But at the same time, back to what you're saying, Danny, is I'm going to nurture that relationship in genuine, though, because I could just say, hey, okay, cool. I got what I needed. I fooled Chris into thinking I care because I had A, B, and C. Now I'm just going to call him in 6 months. Yeah. Or what I care more about is like, all right, cool. I've got that, but I'm also going to pay attention. Hey, you know what? I learned that Chris loves dogs. I love dogs too. Let's talk about dogs. Maybe one day I can convince Chris into doing a specific color for his beard, because I know he changes that. He has a Jekyll and Hyde setup for whiskeys. I found out, that's super cool. Now, I don't drink. I'm sober. But it doesn't mean that I can't talk to him and gain an understanding for the fascination of what he has put together.
Now, the balance on that one is also realized in some circumstances, not all of them, and it's also doing that so it doesn't overwhelm. And there is a hell of a balance on that one, because, as you can probably imagine, there's a lot of other conversations going on, especially because I'm fairly prolific on LinkedIn. And so that balance is, okay, how do I keep that engagement, but not flood? The conversation about dogs, perfect example, is like, hey, how's Milo doing, and stuff like that. But what I have seen some get wrong is they'll try to follow up too much. They'll try to engage for too long, or if I don't hear back and stuff like that. So there's a real fine balance. And I don't think there's an easy equation for that. It is kind of a bit of a sniff and try, or it's like, hey, do you mind if I just give you a shout about some stuff like once every couple of weeks? And so there is some interesting, there's work that has to be done. I think this is what it always goes back to. If you want the results, you've got to put the work in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to Chris's point, not every person is the same. There is that balance. So what's going to work for him, in the same aspects, if I wanted to, let's say I was talking to you, Danny, I'm like, hey, this tool would work for you too, even though it's a different world, you know, you're going to have an understanding of it different than Chris does. It's going to, whatever I'm trying to sell, I have to, and I love what somebody said in the comments, I have to let you talk so that I can learn about you.
How do you do that though? So like, let's back it up a little bit because you dropped really good nuggets
Mhm.
here, but I want to be like break it down for me a little bit more prescriptively because some people here in the comments are interested to know how you're getting to that,
Right.
right? Like, what are the more granular steps, tactical steps, if you will, that others might be able to adopt to be a little bit more effective
Sure.
in hooking those conversations or like getting people to talk about themselves.
So I'm going to break it up into three different things. So you got calls, because that's a sales thing. You've got LinkedIn, which should be a sales thing for people, and then you've got in-person networking. So over the calls, figuring out a script, and I don't mean a script in the sense of you're going to pitch only what you have to say. So the way that I do my script is obviously I have to explain who I am, because if I call somebody and I'm just like, hey, this is Daniel. Okay, Daniel who? Like I'm gonna hang up. Like I do have to explain who I am, who I'm with, and I do have to then also, give. This is where it turns though. You can either follow the script that 1,000 other people are using, or you can try to be different. That's the key thing, is you do have to figure out your own niche and how you're going to be different. So for me, it's saying, hey, look, right now I'm not trying to sell you something. I just would like to ask you two questions. So it breaks up that monogamy of, oh, hey, here's what I've got. Da, 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 da. Because I'm saying, all right, here's the way that I would like to lead this conversation. I'd like to ask some questions and learn from you. Okay, so that's the way that I do it with calls. When it comes to LinkedIn, very similar, but it's a little bit more casual. I when I talk to other people, I say LinkedIn is just a Facebook for business people. So through LinkedIn, I connect with everybody. I'm just a social butterfly. I'll talk to anybody. When they connect, I'll reach out and I'll say, hey, yeah, I really appreciate the connection, because that's a genuine thing for me. And if what I not always, but what I try to do is I try to go on their LinkedIn, find out something about them, and I'll ask them. I'll say, hey, tell me a little bit about this talk that you had on at this conference. I'd like to know more about that. So that's should do one of two things. Either one, it gives them the opportunity to share more of who they are and their thought process, which then helps me understand, okay, who am I dealing with? And to determine, is this going to be a relationship that's going to produce a sale, or is this going to be a relationship that's going to produce just a network friendship, so to speak, or is this just going to be an acquaintance? Because not everybody has to be somebody that I have to sell to.
Yeah,
My company might say
well,
different, but I mean, it's all about
that's
numbers.
big. That's the quote here. Not everybody that I'm connecting with has to be somebody I'm going to sell to.
Yeah. And then so the third one, networking in person. And I leave out email because I mean, email's necessary, but that's a robotic thing. You're just going to have your pitch, so to speak. There's nothing really to that. So networking in person. This is where Chris is at right now. This is where you get to shine as a person, and you get to say, all right, here's who I am. You can dress to the T. You can dress more casual and relaxed. You can be whoever you want to be, and be true to that though. Because like you said, don't BS. Don't try to if you're trying to best friend person A over here, and then you're trying to do the exact same thing and best friend person B over here, and they're totally different personalities. They have different wants. Then person C, who's people watching, is also catching up on that, and they're like, nope, I'm going to turn around from that booth. There's not even a point.
Yep. What I know I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I know we have about 10 minutes left, and I know Chris is going to the boulevard and he's already driving. Okay, we're somewhere in the Middle East. Okay. Um you have a unique approach to some of the messages that you post over on LinkedIn, and to create maybe buzz, or maybe
Mhm.
to just entertain people. You took me through some of that over in Denver, and I had a little bit of a lookie also after the fact. But tell us a little bit about what you're doing in terms of how you're posting messages on LinkedIn and trying to get some
Yeah,
attraction.
absolutely. So, like I said, I'm pretty green into this. So trying to figure out my voice, so to speak, in LinkedIn can be a challenge. And again, it's just awesome that I'm on here. Love it. Thank you so much, because Chris is actually the inspiration to what I have now, which is called Fun Song Fridays. Um,
Okay.
so Fun Song Fridays, it was just like, all right, I saw a post that Chris made, and I resonated with it, even though I'm a salesperson. Chris essentially had a post or an email that was sent, and the guy just kept going and going and going. And Chris is like, I don't need you. I don't need your sales. And he just wouldn't get it. And salespeople, you got it. Sometimes no means no. Like, yes, we have to have that resilience to get past it, but man, read the room. There's a no, I don't think I really need that, because they don't understand it. And then they're like, hey, no, not right now. And don't go around them. and
All right. So do you have a song that you could sing us or rap to us? Are you a
I am
rapper?
not a rapper. Man, I wish God gave me a voice to sing to, but I will share. I don't even know if I could do it. I'll I'll, I'll put something together. I won't do it now, but I'll tell you the one that kind of set it off. And it was, so the Fun Song Friday. What it is, it's my way of helping break up and kind of make comical the conversation that salespeople have to have with those decision makers. And specifically, I kind of angle it towards CISOs, just because that's usually the top dog when it comes to who's going to be looking at this stuff, who's going to be talking about it. So give me just a second here. I'm just trying to find that post real quick. Uh,
Actually, while you're trying to find it, I think you raised a good point, which is there are times I will interact. There are times I'll just send a link to the podcast, to be perfectly honest, but there are times I will interact. And they are sometimes in that, hey, look, love the idea, love the concept, but it'll be first quarter, second quarter 2024. And to your point, people sometimes don't listen, or they don't care, or they're not hearing, or I'm an auto script, or whatever else it is. And I think that's when it gets ridiculously frustrating, because it is rare that you will find CISOs that react, and when you do, you want to be able to listen to them, and you want our voices is like, hey, if I've taken the time to say, love the idea, love the concept, but it ain't ready now, I want to be respected for that, not to try to be sold six other ways. I'm trying to be honest. I'm trying to have integrity rather than just ignoring you and everybody else kind of attitude. So I think it is nice when you do get a response. I think it is also, to me, it's even better if somebody shows that restraint and respect. They've actually earned more respect from me, because it means they've listened.
yeah. All right. So I found the song that started it all. So it goes like this. Dear CISO, I called, but you still ain't answering. I left my cell, my pager, and my home phone on your VM. I sent 2 emails back in June when you must not have got them. There probably was a problem with the network. Anyways, I hope you get this, CISO. Hit me back. Just a chat. Truly yours, your biggest fan. This is Dan.
Chris, what do you think?
I freaking love it. Yeah, I saw.
I mean,
I know, and I love it. I think it's not just unique. It's time and effort, and I think that's what I like about it. It's time and it's effort, and again, here's the thing, because not every CISO needs everything that's being sold to them. However, at some point in time, maybe either now or in the future, I will, or I might know somebody who's like, hey, I'm building X widget, and they're like, oh yeah, I might know somebody. Hey, do me a favor, go talk to these folks. And I think that's where it comes into it is, and you said it yourself, which is, I might not need it now, I might not need it for 6 months, but I also, it just might not be in the wheelhouse of anything that I'm even thinking about, but I might know a few folks who are, at which point, if you've taken that extra step, if you've taken that extra time, now you just get a bump on sale from somebody else.
yeah, I love that you mentioned time and effort, because like you can tell you can tell when someone has put in time to their post, which translates to length. But you could tell when someone's put effort in their post, which doesn't necessarily translate to length, but the tone,
Mhm.
the context, like you can almost hear their voice. Like I don't know how to explain it. I got to maybe noodle on it a little bit more, and this might be something to address in the future.
Yeah, I mean it's effort. It's to me it's context and effort. I see a lot of people, and I'm very, again, same thing, fortunate. A lot of people will repost things, but the ones I care about are the ones that do it and put some of their own thoughts in it as well. So it's very much, to me, it's like if you're going to create a post, you need to do it in such a way that it reaches as broad an audience as possible and
Yeah.
gets people to think.
Mhm.
And that takes time. That takes effort. It takes mindfulness. And
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, I think that's a lot of it for me.
I love it. This has been probably one of the more unique episodes. Like I said, I love the fact that we got to scan the floor and say hey to people on the floor at Black Hat. Daniel, I love that you came on to the show and shared your story and shared some of your great tips for us and the Fun Song Friday. We got to get Eminem to sing that for us. So that's a feat. Maybe we'll talk to his agent. I appreciate all of you, really. We're 41 episodes in. Holy moly. Like, we have some big news coming up too, right, Chris? We're not going to divulge it quite yet, but we have some big news coming up for WTF. We'll share that in the very near future. It probably is going to be WTF 2.0, so we're leveling up. We'll drop that news in the LinkedIn very soon. Before we sign off, what do you guys want to impart on the audience today?
So I'll start real quick. I don't know if Chris can hear. I'll start off real quick. So, guys, yep, be respectful. I mean, that's one thing that I see time and time again. And I love just sharing. Be respectful, and know that you're on either side, sales, CISO, whatever it may be, whatever position, devs, engineers. Be respectful. We are all human. And I think that when COVID happened and we all remoted and it kind of went digital, we kind of lost some of that aspect of realizing that we're human. And now we're coming back together. And just remember, be respectful, and things are going to be awesome.
I love it. Chris, anything you want to share?
I mean, I think that sums up probably what we were talking about right at the beginning, which is you gotta look further than what your eyes see. You really, really do. And that second voice or that third voice has got to be there. I mean, we all talk about. I can't remember what the right term for it is. That what we think and what we say and how we act and everything else. We really need to take a step back. And I think Daniel's right. The world's changed. No two ways about it. And we spent too many years behind a keyboard, and we almost have to relearn how to be social animals again. Oh, well, actually, yeah, more than social animals, because, yeah.
I love it. Thank you, both of you. I mean, echoing what both of you have said, I appreciate the both of you, and I appreciate our audience here who comes on almost every week to listen into the conversation.
Everybody say goodbye.
Thank you to everybody. Thank you for the support. Enjoy Black Hat, everybody. Drive safe. Enjoy the Boulevard. Hopefully we'll be able to join you in person next year. And thanks again, everybody. This has been another episode. Of What the Fuck Did I Just Read? Tech Sales and Marketing